Welcome to this very special interview with a very dear friend and somebody who the cricket world knows inside out and somebody who runs it. Haroon Lorgat, the Chief Executive Officer of the ICC, 20 days before a very important competition, in fact 16 to be precise. Haroon, thank you very much for coming to Times Now and talking to us.
Pleasure, thank you.
16 days before a tournament, some butterflies after the 2007 experience?
You do tend to feel a bit of excitement, butterflies as you call it, as the starting date draws nearer. And there's a lot going on in the West Indies that is also exciting us.
IPL, so many days of T20, 5 days later a World Cup. Is it too much or you think it'll be a success, and why?
I think it's a question that is regularly asked, and rightly so. But I'm convinced that when it comes to international 2020 or international competition, global event, all of the players want this trophy. Some of them have not yet touched it. There's only 2 teams that have conquered it. So there's no doubt they will be looking forward to this.
Let me just ask you a couple of questions about the West Indies, because when we were there in 2007 and now, the major difference, it seems to me, the prices of tickets, and I think the ICC has done very well to understand the local culture. And if I'm right, the lowest starts at $5, right?
That's right. If there was a lesson to be learned from the previous 2007 World Cup, it was perhaps the pricing of the tickets. We were very conscious about that. In addition, we've also brought in a much stronger West Indian flavour. We've also encouraged youth. We've got tickets for youth free. So we want to see the under-16s coming in to support the event. But you're right, across the board, we've been very conscious about pricing, and they range between $5 and $10 for the group stages. So it's very affordable.
And this whole affordability, and I think if I'm right, I was reading a media release sent by James yesterday, that you're actually encouraging the West Indians to bring their instruments and their colour, and so that all of it's part of the stands, which wasn't there in the 2007. So making it a truly Caribbean tournament.
Absolutely, that's what I meant by this West Indian flavour. We often refer to it as the Calypso-style cricket, the way they support their game. They come with their party-style attitude towards supporting their team. We've encouraged all of that, so we want to see a local flavour in this tournament.
Haroon, I know you've answered this question many a time, but one must ask you again. I mean, with the 200 by Sachin Tendulkar, there was a new injection of life into the one-day game. World Cup coming up. Test series against South Africa was a success. Are you now more comfortable than what you were maybe a year back, that the 3 formats actually can coexist, and successfully so?
Well, I was not one of those who was overly concerned. I mean, it's fair to say that we were mindful about creating better context for both Test and one-day cricket. The 50-over format, that is, because there's no question 2020 is so much supported, it's so attractive, it's a shorter form. There was no need to promote it, but we were very conscious that in terms of 50-over cricket, as well as Test cricket, that we needed to create some form of context to make it more supported or better supported. But you're right, the recent series that was played against South Africa was very well supported. The double hundred of Sachin injected new life, as you say. I recall that first one-dayer where there was a 1-run winning margin. I mean, that really set the series off. But I'm a lot more confident, and with the World Cup coming up, there's no doubt that people will see the value in 50 over.
That's my next question. I mean, the World Cup coming up, what can we expect from that World Cup? I know it's still a year from now in terms of security. Are you confident in terms of infrastructure-wise, India is ready? Crowd is always there.
Well, we're working very hard at the moment through what we call the Central Organising Committee that comprises all 3 host countries, India, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. Progress is very good. We're monitoring, we're keeping our fingers on that pulse. All preparations are going according to plan, so I'm confident that we'll get there.
This IPL, for example, was a big test for our government as well in terms of security. Do you follow it? I mean, because it's been a super success so far.
I think you're right in the sense that we needed to make sure that even the recent World Cup hockey tournament that was staged in India, it was important for that to have run smoothly. The IPL itself, there's the Commonwealth Games coming up.
Yes.
All of those have an indirect bearing in terms of safety and security for the World Cup, for the Cricket World Cup next year. So all of those we keep an eye on, and it's fantastic to see how well things are being organised.
I know it's difficult to answer this question for you, sitting in the chair that you are, the CEO of the ICC, but who are your teams for the T20? Who are you looking for?
There's perhaps some teams that would be favoured to get through to the final simply, or rather to the semis, simply because of the composition and the obvious performance of those teams. Teams like India, Australia. I think Pakistan, defending champions, would have a more than even chance. South Africa always plotted to or threatened to get through, and for some reason or other don't make it. But they've got a very well balanced team as well. So I think those four may see it through to the semis. But sorry, Boria, 2020 is something that can spring you that surprise, and you never know.
The team that is already creating a lot of interest, as far as I'm concerned, is Afghanistan. Each player is a story. Just say a bit, I mean, what did you feel when that team qualified? Because again, James was telling us a few moments back that 8,000 people in that Dubai stadium making noise, Afghans, is incredible for the ICC, isn't it?
It's an absolutely fascinating and a success story. Afghanistan, you may not know, have been progressing every year for the last, I think, 4 years, winning their respective division. So they've migrated from the World Cricket League Division 4, for example, or 5, I don't know where they started, but they've progressed all the way and they've won every one of those tournaments. And then they entered or qualified to play in the qualifying tournament, which they won. And that's given them the passage through to this World 2020 in the West Indies. So theirs is a fascinating story. Each player, as you say, has got a story to tell. So, I mean, Afghanistan for us is a genuine success story.
Haroon, my last question, given its IPL time, if you've been watching the tournament, who are the players that you think have a major chance to become stars of the World 2020?
A difficult question because in truth I've not been able to watch them all. But I think it's somewhat strange that players like Chris Gayle have not performed as what one would have expected in the IPL, but back in his own home territory, I think you've got to watch out for Chris Gayle. On a single day, he could single-handedly beat the opposition. Their other player, Kieran Pollard, is also someone that you've got to be mindful of. I've also been watching MS Dhoni. I don't think he would have been satisfied with his own performances. But those are things that you've got to be careful of because comes the World 2020 and it could be quite a different story. I think Watson is also for Australia a performer. Dale Steyn the other night is someone who could turn games. And Callis has been very consistent. So I think there's quite a number of players who could be well and truly in form.
There you have it. MS Dhoni, if he's watching this interview, coming from the CEO of the ICC, there's much to play for. So even if you don't perform in the IPL for Chennai Super Kings, we don't mind because sport is ultimately about the tricolour, about the nationalism, about the verve and the passion. So 1 month later, Haroon, if we win this trophy, we'll recount this interview and say, you injected that new passion into MS Dhoni. Thank you very much for talking to us and talking to me.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.